without further ado, I don't have nearly the background or the pedigree that Peter does, so it might be good to introduce myself so you know why I'm up here and why I have a reason to say anything at all. My name is Dreamin. I serve as the go-to-market lead at Capstorm, and I'm affectionately referred to as a Capstorm Stormtrooper. Our marketing team has really gotten carried away with this stuff, but it's been a lot of fun. And I said that I'd make an argument or a case that the Salesforce ecosystem or Salesforce's customers are hungering for this idea of Salesforce data autonomy. There's a couple of reasons why I know it's true, but I wanted to define it so that you understand what I'm talking about. This idea is that you have the freedom or the ability to govern and control your own Salesforce data. There is this organization called Better Cloud, you see up here on the screen. They have this State of SaaS Ops report. I would encourage you to look into it because it's very intriguing, very informative, but we're going to play a little game here. I would like to poll the audience and see if anyone can guess what the estimated percentage of all enterprise IT applications that will be SaaS in nature by the year 2025. So just shout out a few numbers. Somebody said 80, a little bit higher. Who said 85? It was back here somewhere. Stop by our booth, we'll give you a free t-shirt after the presentation. But yes, 85%. And this is all based on historic trend data of how enterprise data teams are transforming their business to be cloud first. And what I'm suggesting here is that as part of the cloud transformation, SaaS is a very critical piece, very important. But if we equate digital transformation to SaaS only, we're cutting ourselves out of a value stream where we think that we can't have our cake and eat it too. We have to do it this way, and we can't do it that way. And if we want to transform, it's a binary decision, but it's not. So also, borrowing another idea from Peter Coffey, I didn't know that he was going to talk about this today, but he gave a speech, I think it was 4 years ago at Dreamforce, I believe. There's a big slalom logo in the background on the stage when he was presenting. And the idea was that just because you purchase a product does not mean that you instantly get value out of it, right? For me, I have one of these. I'm sure many of you do too. It's an iPhone. And when I'm looking to solve a problem, I want to go to my app store. I want things to be easy to research, easy to find, easy to figure out how the pricing model works. I want it to be easy, automatically integrate with my social accounts, with my email, etc. So I understand this completely. What if these vendors that you're working with or these products that you're purchasing don't actually give you visibility into your data? What if it's sort of oh, we'll take care of that for you, just trust us. You don't need to see this. We've got it all under control. For me, that's what I would refer to as life without data autonomy. It feels shady, and it makes me feel boxed in. And I know that it makes some of you feel boxed in as well because every day I hop on calls with Salesforce customers that are looking for a way to solve problems. And these inherent biases that they don't even realize exists within themselves are leading them to solve business cases in a certain way without ever even assuming that it's possible to have ownership over your data. If we start on the far left-hand side with data autonomy, we actually expand our horizons for what is possible, what we can actually be doing with our Salesforce data. I'm going to go in a linear path here. It kind of looks like a Salesforce path. That was done intentionally. But the idea is, in summary, if we have autonomous control over our data, we have transparency into our data model, which helps us think about business cases or use cases and how we could address them differently because we actually own our data. It doesn't live in a proprietary data store in some vendor's cloud where we can't validate it, access it, and test it, except for when there's a problem. And the end result is secure value extraction. You're getting more out of the data, your company's most valuable digital asset, because you're thinking from the very beginning, where do I want to go, and can I have a have your cake and eat it too moment as I implement a solution. Next concept, radical transparency. I'm going to go ahead and define that one as well. Pulled a bunch of different definitions from Webster, Google, and aggregated them into this. Radical transparency is the unhindered visibility and access to perceive, analyze, and utilize your Salesforce data and metadata to extract tangible business value. So this would be answering questions like, what kind of data do we have? Who's touching it? How often are they touching it? How is our metadata changing? When is it changing? Why is it changing? How valuable is this data? Where is it flowing? How is it integrating with our data warehouse or back-end applications and systems? And by show of hands, I know this might be a relatively new term, because I just made it up before this conference. How many of you would benefit from this idea of radical transparency into your data? Any hands? A couple. Okay. That's kind of what I expected. Again, because of this inherent bias, we're primarily living on a SaaS platform. I use it every day. But to Peter's point, we are not immune to these inherent biases. So we're going to talk about some use cases here and not settling for the status quo. I want you to walk away from this thinking, what could I do if I had autonomous control over my data and I didn't have to trust people outside of my organization to do things for me, but I could do it myself? Now, when I asked the question by show of hands, who would benefit from this, I actually expected almost no one to raise their hand because it's not something that's really talked about in the Salesforce world. We kind of just expect to log on to the App Exchange. The company that I work for, we're listed on the App Exchange too, but you just kind of want this plug-and-play iPhone experience. You want it to be super easy. Totally understand. But here's a few examples of why this should be important. And if I add some flesh to the skeleton of the idea, data autonomy should be easier to interpret. So one of the reasons that I know this is relevant today is that our customers will come and say things like, I need a backup solution. And I'll say, okay, well, some people for backups, they just mean, I want an insurance policy. I don't really care to use it. I don't care to touch it. My boss said, make sure Salesforce is backup. I just need to check a box. And we say, well, what if you could have the fastest RTOs and RPOs in the industry, a near real-time copy for your backup within 3 to 5 minutes of real time that you can verify and test on demand. You don't have to wait until there's a problem. And oh, by the way, you'll never touch a CSV file when you have to recover. Suddenly, the buying criteria on that first discovery call totally changed. That's how I know this is relevant. Here's another one. Someone says, yeah, I really need to get some of this data out of Salesforce. It's always going to live in Salesforce, but we need to integrate it with the rest of our data fabric. And inevitably, one of the pain points that we hear about is, gosh, every time Salesforce schema changes, every time we add new objects, change the metadata, drop columns, et cetera, like that, it breaks our integrations. And our enterprise data team and our SQL developers are frustrated because they're manually updating this stuff all the time. And we say, well, if you have a near real-time carbon copy that's completely automated and you don't have to manage all that DDL and DML work from the back end, think of how that autonomous control would empower your reporting and integrations, data warehousing, stuff like that. Another thing we hear about is sandbox seeding, or pushing anonymized production data into sandboxes, developer orgs, scratch orgs. It's so difficult that we don't even do it. We just develop in production. Or we just wait 30 days until we can get a plain vanilla dummy data set from Salesforce. And we say, well, what if you use that near real-time copy to populate a bunch of scratch orgs or dev orgs with a sandbox seeding template, and you never had to touch data loader, and you can automate the entire process. Ding, the light bulb just went off. If you're in the InfoSec space, governance, risk, and compliance, particularly with healthcare and life sciences, big pharma, finance, banking, insurance, all that type of stuff, it can be difficult to integrate Salesforce data with the rest of your global framework, especially if you have more than one production org. But again, data autonomy says you can keep your data behind your on-premises or AWS, GCP, Azure firewalls in whatever country of origin that you want. So you can abide by data residency and geolocation requirements, all while enabling yourself to use that data more effectively. So that is the have your cake and eat it too mantra. Another thing we hear about is Salesforce is getting slow. We're getting so close to our file and data storage limits, and it's bogging down the performance, and we've got all these cases and email messages living in there. We have retention requirements. If we could keep them somewhere outside of Salesforce, that would be really nice, but we don't know how to do it. Again, data autonomy says, keep it in your own database, purge it from Salesforce, improve your performance, abide by your retention policies. Bingo. One of our customers that we're really excited to work with, they have 96 different production orgs. Why? I have no idea. But that's just the way that they're set up. And when you have that many different lines of business and that many different countries doing that many different things, it is impossible to run the kinds of queries and reports and integrations to achieve a 360-degree view of your customer across those different data silos. But what if you could pull everything down to the non-proprietary SQL or OLAP environment like Snowflake, Redshift, BigQuery, whatever you like to use, and aggregate that data, database view, to a single point of query so you can get a near real-time 360-degree view of your entire business, of one of your customers, one of your partners, etc. This one's pretty simple. I use Salesforce reports and dashboards every single week to drive my team to focus on the metrics that we have decided this is what equals success. However, there are some queries and some data visualization things that I would like to be able to do on Salesforce that I can't. It's a multi-tenant, landlord-tenant architecture model. But again, data autonomy says, if you're using your storage and your compute and your database with your off-the-shelf analytics tools, you can do whatever you want. And lastly, again, addressing more of the CIOs or CISOs, I don't know if there are any in the room, but peace of mind. If you have control of your data, there's nothing sweeter to a GRC team or a CISO than, okay, nobody else outside of our organization is ever going to see our data. They really, really like that. It doesn't have to be on-prem. It can be in your own public, private, hybrid cloud, wherever you want it. Now, something that I would like to mention, and actually failed to mention at the beginning of this, but Peter, if you ever get a chance to listen to this recording, or if we ever get a chance to meet in person, I want to tell you this story personally. The company, Capstorm, that I'm with, we are locking arms with Salesforce in the fight to cure cancer within 6 of the top 10 largest global pharmaceutical companies across the globe. It's very exciting for us, and I want to share a little bit about that story. So what I vowed to myself and sort of secretly vowed to you guys before I even met you is that this would not be a presentation about Capstorm, but I do have to sneak a little bit in here. Capstorm is a Salesforce data management platform. We make it really easy to move data and metadata into and out of Salesforce. We are not a SaaS platform. Our customers never touch CSVs. We never see or store your data. And you have the ability to control whatever you want with your Salesforce data and metadata. Now, this one story, again, this larger pharmaceutical organization, they're doing a couple of things in this fight to cure cancer with Capstorm and Salesforce. And they have a 3-fold approach to doing it. So they need, obviously, backups and recovery, 96 different production orgs. Something goes down, that's a big problem. So they've got a business continuity team managing that. They've got an analytics team that are taking CAR-T, clinical cancer research data, pushing it into Redshift so they can crunch numbers really fast. And then, the DevOps and sandbox seeding. So they have a build team that I think about 80 developers that are constantly spinning up different sandbox orgs and giving every developer the ability to test and develop in their own private sandbox environments without stomping on each other. But here's what's really cool about this. The business continuity team, global, they need certain data access rights to perform their function. It's very limited. They don't really need to see much of the data. But if somebody says, hey, some data got lost or corrupted, I need you to roll it back to the way it was on the 4th of July at 1300, they can do that. There's another team, the clinical trial analytics team. They actually need to see results of the clinical trials and see how that ties to a real human that's in this CAR-T clinical research category. So they have another totally different degree of access. And of course, the DevOps team does as well. The reason that all of that's possible is that they did not settle for transformation, modernization equals SaaS, because it doesn't. It is a very important part of it. We use SaaS applications as well, but I guess my final comment here is, if it's working for these massive top 10 global big pharma organizations to fulfill their multifaceted Salesforce data enablement, DevOps, analytics use cases, I'm 100% certain it's going to work for you as well.